one of the things that I don't do is I don't do fancy music sounds to start the show like Dallas does. I just kind of like start it basically like this. What's up, guys? How you doing out there? Thank you so much for joining me today on number 5 of Atomic Mass Transmissions Live home stream right here from my beautiful laundry room. I hope you guys have all been staying safe, staying sane. I'm excited to get to paint with you today. I've got some pretty exciting stuff on the docket. I've got some announcements to make, so that's pretty exciting. We're going to get into those once we start painting. A couple things coming your way that I think you guys will be very excited about. Dallas announced our painting challenge last week on Thursday's stream, and that is going to go into full swing. So hopefully you guys are thinking about the new challenge and how you're going to jump in. It is Cinco de Mayo as well. I do not have a platter of tacos. I wish I did. I did, however, eat tacos for lunch, so I feel pretty full up and ready to go. Also looking forward to Revenge of the 6th tomorrow. So lots of good stuff today. I'm going to be painting the new Black Widow Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. today on the live stream. I actually finished my Hawkeye. I might show him off too over the weekend. But yeah, lots of good stuff. We're going to be showing off the card on social media as well after this stream at some point when Josh decides to. So today is just, it's a celebration day, man. We got all the good stuff happening, and we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to start painting this Black Widow who I've been waiting for months. So I just started off with a normal primer coat. I just did gray. I've been kind of thinking about where and how I want to go through with her color scheme, and I think for this one and today I'm just going to stick with the black bodysuit. I'm going to go a little bit more on the blue side though, because I do really like kind of harkening back to that 90s era, you know, early 2000s kind of color scheme before the blacks got a lot of purple and greens in them, and they became like really, really deep blacks. More when like the Venoms and, you know, think of those classic like the McFarlane stuff and all that, where most black was really just blue with some black hashing to make it black. So I'm going to play with that. I've had a lot of fun with that color scheme and using it in different ways. So we're going to dive in, we're going to do that, and I think it's a really good homage to basically where the influence for a lot of the costume for this Widow that we kind of created came from, which was that very classic 90s Black Widow when she had the red banding on the suit and all of this stuff. So yeah, so I think I'm going to play with that, and we're just going to go right in. I'm going to start with one of my new favorite colors, Abyssal Blue from Scale 75, and this is actually how I painted my Hawkeye. So my goal is kind of get, I'll show this off really quick. So here's my Hawkeye that I painted. I'm super excited to get this guy on the table, but you can kind of see how that black has got this nice little blue to it. It's only got those blue undertones and stuff, so I'm going to be hitting that up on this Black Widow suit as well. It'll tie them together nicely on the table, and I think it's really going to give me what I'm looking for here. Overall, super, super happy with how this Hawkeye turned out. It was super fun to paint, and I can't wait to get his partner in crime on the table as well and be able to have them like standing next to each other looking all badass. So I'm just going to start with the Abyssal Blue. I'm going to thin it out a little bit to make kind of a wash. And kind of like we always do for the most part whenever we're developing or painting stuff on the stream. I find my glaze medium that ran off on me. So I'm just using a little bit of the Vallejo glaze medium. I'm going to use this to thin out the paint into kind of a wash consistency. And I'm going to use a little bit of water as well. And my goal is to just kind of create something that's going to stretch nicely over the miniature, so that I can kind of use some of that lighter highlighting. I'm not really going to use the wash technique though, because if you notice I didn't zenith prime this one. I just did her in pure gray. So I'm going to do a bit more like traditional kind of blending with 2-brush and stuff. But we're still going to start off kind of this way. And we're just going to like bang right into it. So start slapping on color everywhere. And since I know most of her is going to be black, I'm just going to kind of like be really quick and sloppy with this. And then I'll go back and we'll deepen it up and clean it out and everything. And it'll be good to go. So everybody's weekend went really well. And you guys had fun. We had some really interesting weather over the weekend. It was kind of very Seattle. It was a mix of like boo rain and sun, and you just never knew. A lot of wind. It was really kind of schizophrenic. My kids were dying. half the time they're like, oh, we want to get out. Now we can't get out. What are we supposed to do? That always makes it fun. I'm going a little bit careful over the back here. Avoiding this little widow icon, the hourglass icon on her back, because we're going to do that red. So even though I'm kind of being pretty generous with this first coat, I'm just kind of getting it on to kind of build up my base. I'm also being careful not to I'm trying not to get it too much on the places where I know I'm going to be going with other colors. So if there's a place where I'm going to do red or anything like that, I'm going to try to avoid that as best I can. So yeah. But yeah, new Black Widow, super exciting. She was very fun to play test. Actually, Mr. Pagani was the one who did the initial design crack for her. So I did Hawkeye, and Pagani took over duty on getting Black Widow kind of sketched out to start. And I think he did a great job on kind of taking her in a different direction. And Interrogate was one of his big brainchilds. He talked about wanting a way to kind of let her score, and we wanted to keep her really focused on missions. You know, we talked about a lot with the core Black Widow. Like, one of the things that I really love about that character, and I think is so iconic of her, is she's very mission focused. And the first, you know, the core box Black Widow at 2 points is an amazing objective runner. She's got some really great utility in terms of like being stealth, long move. Counter-Strike is actually really effective at letting her deal damage, even though she's like physically not quite as strong in the attack zone as some of the other characters, but it makes her a credible threat. And so we wanted to keep some of that stuff because I think Black Widow overall is, as an operative, even a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and stuff, is going to be very focused on that. But we wanted to kind of dive in, like, this is Black Widow when she gets her hands dirty. It's definitely her in that more offensive mode. She's going to go in and kick some ass. But the Interrogate was such a nice one nod to kind of her Red Room training, and the fact that, you know, she has this checkered past where she's not quite that nice. And at the same time, it let her focus on the mission in a different way. So obviously you're only going to get to be able to interrogate people when they're dazed, and therefore Widow wants to be able to daze them herself, so she'll be nice and close to them, and then she can take advantage of it and use her interrogate. And it was a fun and great kind of trick to get that same Black Widow flavor and core without, well, changing a lot of what she does and how she works. And I think it makes her a really unique and interesting piece, like we want every character to be. But especially, you know, especially Black Widow. You really want her to feel like the character from the page and the one we all know. And just really fun. A really, really fun way to kind of hit it out. And anytime you can score outside of like normal mission parameters, it's always a great strategy and tactic to use, and your opponent's got to kind of expect it and work around it, and it can really pull you out of a jam. So there's a lot of fun play that comes from it. I know the testers had a lot of fun with her. And there was a lot of balancing that went into making sure that Interrogate was strong, but not too strong. So I think at one point she still had her Counter-Strike, or she had some reactive rule, because we wanted to keep in that idea that you know, attacking her is dangerous. She's gonna martial arts counter you and beat you up if you try to hit her. You know, she's always gonna hit you back. And whatever it was wasn't working. We were having our meeting at one point, and I was like, well, you know, we have this rule that we worked up on this other character that was in playtest at the same time, a character whose name I cannot say right now because Josh will murder me. Parting Shot. And I was like, we should just use that. And so we slapped Parting Shot on her, and it was great. It gave her more mobility. It gave her that ability to kind of like strike back, and that very martial art kind of like sneak out of danger, which is what we wanted. So there you go. Sometimes you benefit from other things that people are doing. I thought they already had the name, but I guess that was the XFL team that had the name for Seattle with the Dragons. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when they're going to announce the name for the NHL team. As curious as anyone. Does she have a chance to interrogate Hulk? It's at the start of the phase, so Hulk would not... I don't believe Hulk would go away. I don't have the timing chart in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Hulk doesn't go away until after the start of the phase. So she would get the chance to interrogate the Hulk before he disappeared forever. Goodbye, forever friend. Goodbye. So just get that on. Finishing up. And it's patchy, but that's okay. I knew it would be. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to fix it up here in a little bit as it dries, and I want to overwork it. But that's kind of like where we're starting as I pull her off screen here. So here we go. So we got her going on. So other big news that we got besides is we wait for this widow to kind of like dry out so I can go back to working on my next layer of color. We've been working on since kind of the start of the whole shelter at home and everything going on. We decided that we really wanted to try to come up with a way that people could, I missed a spot, have some fun with the game. You know, we did the Ultimate Encounters, and that was great, and we got the Hulk one out, which hopefully you guys have had fun with. But one of the things that we kind of decided to dive into was to see if there was a way in which we could create a game mode where you didn't need 3 people or didn't have to be like 1v1 or anything like that effectively. So we sat down, and Pagani was tasked with creating a bit of an AI system for the Ultron Ultimate Encounter, which would allow somebody to, I mean, if you wanted to, play by yourself against the AI Ultron, but really the goal was so that, you know, you and somebody in your family or somebody in your household could team up and take on an AI-controlled Ultron together. And that finally got the thumbs up from all parties that were most involved and important. And I believe Josh will be posting it sometime after this stream today, so you will have access to a free Ultron AI variant rule set for All Will Be Metal, the Ultimate Encounter with Ultron. It's pretty fun. It allows kind of like Ultron runs around the board and just causes a lot of chaos and deals a lot of damage for sure. And then you can kind of try to like beat out the AI and play with like your spouse, your significant other, maybe one of your teenagers in the house if they have interest in playing games. But it's a pretty fun way to kind of enjoy the game together, and takes out that third person so you can just work together. And it's great for teaching, introducing people to the game and stuff. All the core concepts are the same. So that we got another special like treat, hopefully for you guys to enjoy and keep you sane and, you know, keep you playing and all that stuff. But it was fun to work on. I definitely did a lot of home play testing since we couldn't be in the office with my family, my wife, my kids, all that stuff. So they were very helpful. They were very helpful in the whole process for sure. We had a lot of fun. Ultron only kicked our butt like once, I think. And then the second time and the third time they kind of got it dialed in and had a blast with it. So one of several things that we continue to work on to just give you guys stuff to do at home. So when is the Rocket Ultimate Encounter you are all trash launching? I mean, I'll put it on the docket for you. I don't think that one's official yet. Last I checked, I didn't see it on the office memo, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do on that one. It sounds like a good time for sure. Okay, so we got our Abyssal Blue layer kind of down. It's looking pretty good. Still a little wet. So, where should we go to while we do this? We could probably hit the hair maybe. This is kind of the challenge here now, is like, okay, well, now we gotta watch paint dry. So what are we gonna do when we watch paint dry? Oh, I'm buzzing up. All right, we watch paint dry. Okay, just thinking about how I want to approach this next and where I want to go. Oh, I gotta get her fists. Really? Her hands are covered by the black gloves? Nonsense. All right. Well, that's all right. I don't like painting hands that much anyway, so I'll happily take this opportunity to not have to do that. Yeah. It's all about those sweet boxes. But yeah, I really like how these two kind of pair together and they work, you know, as a group. Obviously, they're both Avengers. I think somebody asked that question in the Facebook group. But if anybody is still wondering, when these guys officially release, we will update some of the rules docs on the website. And one of the intentions was always that all of the affiliations are kind of living documents. So you do get the card when the affiliation is introduced, but as new things get added and they get added to the affiliations, we update that on the website. And we kind of made that decision for a couple of reasons. Like, one, it gives us a lot of future proofing. So if we do an affiliation that we didn't think of, 3 years ago or whatever, we have the capability of, making sure all the right characters are in there. It also means that it's a lot easier for people to go and find the most up-to-date card. We talked about maybe putting new versions in different products and stuff. It was like, that tracking is going to be kind of a nightmare. So the goal is to kind of introduce the affiliation, and then from there, if you want to know everybody that can be in it, just keep checking the website, check our social media, and we'll continue to update them. And that gives us a lot of flexibility and the ability to, make sure that as the game grows, everything grows with it. And so Hawkeye and Black Widow are kind of, I think they're our very first affiliation ads, which is pretty fun. There's definitely a lot more coming as well. Plenty on the Avengers side. Yeah, eventually, it's true. That's true. Eventually, the affiliation cards would be so long they wouldn't even fit on a card anymore. Because both Cabal and Avengers are kind of like the catch-alls. They get most of the peoples. Not all of them, but they get most of them. We're pretty happy with that. Great. So our Abyssal Blue is all laid out. Got our black suit going on. I don't think I missed anything. As I say that, I see a spot that I missed. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this Arctic Blue, get in there, and I'm just going to start building up some highlight colors. And effectively I'm just going to start building up highlights and stuff using some two-brush blending, which you've seen Dallas do quite a bit. I'm nowhere near as proficient as he is at it, but it is a really great way to kind of help build colors. And really the trick with it is you want to have two brushes, and you keep one brush clean and damp. So you apply paint with one, and then you spread the paint with the other, and you're basically looking to just kind of like blend out the colors as you go. So you apply color, you take your other brush, and then you blend the color out. You can get really, really fancy with it if you want, and like really, really, really meticulous. You can do kind of what I'm going to do, which is just use it to help blend out highlights as you build. I'm not going to worry about getting like super great blends or anything like that. She's not going on a competition. She's going on my shelf to look next to my Hawkeye. And she's going to be on the table to kick my opponent's booties or just, you know, have a good time telling stories. So that's the goal. But if we go back to Hawkeye, just to kind of show you like what to expect. So you can see like the blends on the knee and stuff, like all that's done with this 2-brush kind of blend. Where I'm taking my color, I'm applying it really thick, and then I'm using that damp brush to just stretch the paint out and build it out into kind of like a nice little blend there. Same thing on the purples and all of that. Like it's just a really great way to kind of like meld those colors together. You can see on the quiver and stuff. And it just kind of like, it stretches the paint out so you get this nice little transition. West Coast Avengers. Man. That's an ask right there. West Coast Avengers. Suppose it's better than the Great Lakes Avengers. They got shut down, so pretty tough for them. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's pretty safe to say that, you know, for those people who are asking about S.H.I.E.L.D, it's kind of in the name, right? So obviously, I think that's something that seems pretty reasonable for people to be expecting and looking forward to. You know, the when is certainly a question, but we'll get there at some point. But yeah, there's lots of cool stuff that we get to do. Oh, I switched my brushes. Huh. There's a lot of cool stuff that we get to do going forward. There's just so much room to play in the, you know, in the universe of Marvel and kind of with the characters and stuff. And you know, hopefully, once November rolls around and we can all head back to the cinema and stuff, check out that new Black Widow movie, which looks pretty dope. You know, we'll get a feel for Agent Widow and how she stacks up next to her MCU counterpart and all those feelings and stuff. So, should be pretty good. I think, because I'm playing with this now and causing problems, my blue might still be a little too wet, but we'll see. At this point I'm kind of doing more of a wet blend because my paint decided not to just generic agents. You know, that question gets asked a lot. I actually have a policy to never really say never, because, you know, I don't know what the future holds. But what I would say is, obviously one of the big things with Crisis Protocol is it's very hero focused. It's focused on like the big narratives and the excitement. And, you know, the power mechanic is a really big one from a gameplay standpoint. So, I think one of the things that you'd have to, you know, think about, and that we'd be really careful with, and even exploring such a thing, is do those lesser characters, do those minion type characters, what are they adding to the experience? And is there a better way to add them? You know, there's, hopefully by this point everyone kind of sees that there's a lot of, let me get my lights down a little bit more. There's a lot of potential opportunity for different game modes and stuff like that, and maybe that's where those characters fit in, maybe it's not, you know, who knows? But, you know, the core of the game experience, and what's really important to us is making sure that it stays kinetic, that it stays fast-paced, that, you know, turns, that you're never really just taking something to make activation counts. You know, even when you're choosing a team based on kind of turn flow and order of activations and stuff, you're still feeling like every piece is meaningful outside of just getting you that one little like turn dot or whatever, right? So all that stuff goes into it. And who knows? Yeah, and named minions are definitely different, right? Like, I could be misunderstanding when people bring it up, but normally I don't consider anybody who has like a name or is like a character. Like, if you can search them on a Wikipedia, they're probably not really a minion, right? Like, Hydra Goon number 2 is not, it's not Hydra Bob. It's not Phil Coulson. S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, even like Quartermain, right? All of those like named, if they're important enough to have a name and to show up multiple times in different comics, they're probably in a different league than, say, New York Cop number 2. But that's kind of like a philosophical consideration on characters and stuff. So, who knows, right? Who really knows? So I'm just kind of building up these blue highlights. I'm going to go pretty blue because I can always tone them down a bit with like a black glaze. So I'm not too worried. And then I'm going to go back and like all of the black straps I'll do in a different gray to kind of make them stand out. Yeah, like that's another good mindless ones. I don't think a mindless one really fits the bill for, like, that is a true generic minion right there. No names, no special like stuff. They're just goons to go punch. So I'm really just playing with the colors right now and building up my first base of highlights until I'm kind of happy with it. And obviously because it's a really dark color, it's a little tricky to kind of see. And I'm kind of thinking, like, I know, looking at the reference and stuff, these shin pads, these shin guards here, which are kind of like armored, are Brendan, who did an amazing paint job on her, kind of painted everything as like black hardened leather and then made the leather like suit itself the same. So I'm going through this, I'm kind of wondering, like, do I want to do these as like black steel, which I think it could be really cool, or do I just want to go crazy and make them like red? And there's part of me that thinks that would pair really well, because I'm always thinking about how these guys are going to look together. Like, I did the purple on Hawkeye's boots, which is a bit of a deviation from the studio scheme, to give them that pop of color and like make them go. So I'm kind of wondering if I want to do red metallic on that armor plating, to really like make it pop out and give her that extra like widow pizzazz. I could do blue steel, depending on how blue the blue steel was. Like, I could go really blue. I don't know if that would look quite right, but it would tie in with the blacks that I have going on right now, for sure. So I'm gonna add a bit more Arctic blue into my mixture here, and I'm just gonna start building up highlights. And really the trick is here is to make sure that you're going high enough that it's noticeable, but not so high that you're like jumping several shades. And that just takes a little bit of experimentation, a little bit of playing. Obviously the super safe approach is to make your highlight as minimal as possible and then do 5 billion highlights. But that's not our goal, because one, I don't want to do 5 billion highlights. And two, with the 2-brush blending, I'm going to get to do some of those stage highlights just with how the paint's going to blend out. So I have a bit more freedom in terms of like how bright I can go to start, which will make the process, it's part of what makes the process easier and faster to do. And the big thing with blending of any type is you want to make sure that your paint is nice and loose, so they'll stretch over the form of the miniature. So when you blend with this method, I'm taking my wet brush and I'm just coming in and I'm basically dragging it to and then back. And of course the trick here is that only works if my paint is nice and dry underneath, and because it's a stream, it's not quite that way, but that's okay. We will survive. So I'm just coming in, putting in my highlight, and then blending it out. And again, all this is doing is it's just creating that smoother transition between the two colors. So I'm trying to maintain my edge where my big highlight is, where I want, you know, I want these colors to like really pop. Come back up a little bit. I snuck down on you. And then I'm just going to paint in these highlights where I think they should go. On the top of that calf, kind of coming under to get that nice little like leather pop. I'll just go around and like build these out. So I'm just looking for those areas that the light would hit, and then any area I want to really accentuate. And I'll just come in with my highlight. And if I make a mistake, another really nice thing is we talk about our magic eraser brush all the time, and the brush that I'm blending with is also really that brush that can erase all of my mistakes. Oh, my favorite affiliation to play right now. That's quite the question. I think my go-to affiliation with the stuff that's released right now. I'm definitely more of like an Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy affiliation kind of like player. Asgard's fun, but not entirely my style. Pagani is huge into Cabal. That's like his thing. But he's evil, so it makes sense. I like the Avengers a lot. I mean, I have a lot of attachment to those characters, so that makes it fun from just like a narrative level and the stories that I want to tell. So I'm pretty big into that affiliation. And then Guardians, I think, is just zany and fun. And the thing that I like about the Guardians affiliation is it's really a time where you don't have to take yourself too seriously. Like, and we kind of approach the faction a little bit, or the affiliation, with that in mind. The idea that, you know, these are kind of like the goofballs, the misfits, the outcasts of the Marvel Universe, and they've come together to obviously protect and defend, and they're very capable, but humor has kind of always been a little bit at the core of their identity since Annihilation, Conquest, and especially with the more modern era where they're very much riffing off of the MCU and stuff like that. And so we wanted to play with that identity, because I think that's part of what has really endeared them to the world at this point, is that kind of goofball mentality, that nature of, you know, they try their best and they typically succeed despite themselves. But you know, their motives are pure and their intentions are good, and they're kind of this misfit family. And so I really like that on the table. I've always been a huge fan of like things that are not tactically sound, but that are hilarious in games. So I'm typically the first person to take like the zany inventors who have things blow up in their face just as much as they have them work out, you know? That gamble big kind of mentality of, well, if it works, it's going to be phenomenal. But if it doesn't work, it's still going to be phenomenal, just not in a way that, you know, maybe was intended. And so I like things like Rocket Boots. To me, is a hilarious card that just makes a great story and is funny and is almost more fun when it goes wrong than when it works out right. You know, the idea that you're tossing out all of your good tactics for rerolls, and the way that they play together, and kind of the way you have to use them as teams. You know, the design idea that Rocket and Groot are really just a single 5-point character with 2 separate activations, I think is a really kind of cool and unique way to approach gameplay with them. Because now you have to consider, you know, one of your characters is, you know, there's no Thors. There's nobody who's going to just walk in, outside of maybe Gamora, who's going to walk in and just, like, roll everybody with very little effort. Instead, it's being clever about, okay, well, we have more bodies on the table. How are we going to capitalize on that? How are we going to maximize that? Like, what's the strategy going in? And I think that's also a really fun and different kind of approach that can be really rewarding when you pull it off. So I think those two are my like tops. If I had to pick. But most of the time I wind up going Avengers just because naturally the characters that I gravitate towards that are released at the moment easily fit within that mold. So, you know, when I run my Hawkeye and my Black Widow, my Captain Marvel, my Thor, all of those together really just say, okay, we'll play Avengers. Loki winds up on my Avengers team a lot too, just because I love Loki as a character. I think he's one of the most brilliant modern reinterpretations of a character in quite some time, in terms of just like how they changed who he is and what he does and stuff. And I just find it so cool that he went from this really classic, like, Shakespearean villain in the comics to somebody who's nuanced, and now nobody can really agree if he's a hero, if he's a villain, and the storylines they've been able to do with that, you know, and the places that he's shown up have just really, I think, like, made him even more fun. And a really interesting kind of character arc to watch. You know, Loki, Agent of Asgard, and then Loki as the Sorcerer Supreme, and all these different steps that he's taken. And the hurdles he's had to overcome, you know, they're not just like, well, now he's a hero. It's like, no. Everybody still remembers how terrible of a person you were. And the fact that you made an entire lifestyle of tricking people. So it's not going to be that easy for you to just come in and be like, well, I'm a good guy. Let's be friends. My favorite affiliation released. Yeah, that sounds like a trap. It's not May 4th anymore, but that sounds like a trap. I will say that I don't believe that my favorite affiliation is released, no. But my favorite affiliation could change. I am super looking forward to getting the Black Order on the table. They are some of my favorite. They're some of my favorite Marvel characters to date, especially with the kind of the fleshing out they got in some of the storylines. Their own one being their self-titled kind of series that just happened, I think last year it was, which was amazing. Just Black Order. Check it out if you haven't read it. It's phenomenal if you want to know more about those characters. And I thought the way that they went about telling the story and stuff was really fun. And really like brought them from spooky like minion villains to full-fledged, you know, Marvel characters in a lot of ways. So I really like them. Very excited to put them on the table. And they are not released, so I can pick them and be safe, I guess. Defenders is another one that I'm very excited for. No doubt. That affiliation is just fun. It's got a lot of the characters that I really like too. You know, I love Hulk, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, like all the great ones are in that affiliation, and just super fun. A Stan Lee cameo. That would be pretty fun. I'll put it on the docket with "You're all trash" for the Rocket Ultimate Encounter. Dealing with a size 1 rocket. Seems like it'll go well. Alright, I think I'm going to switch gears from the black for a minute because I want that to dry. And we're going to... I don't think I can do the reds yet, but I think I can do the armor plates. So, I've convinced myself. I'm going to use this Garnet Alchemy. Whoop! Will that focus? There we go. Which is a red metallic. And we're going to do this. We're going to be a little different. But I think it's going to look cool in the end. So I'm just going to come in and we're going to hit these armor plates. And we're going to make them like real armor. Because my Black Widow can be any way I want. So that's what we're going to do. And then hit these up. Another affiliation I think people will really like, which, you know, I'm a little disappointed about, is the Web Warriors affiliation. Because of course that one's coming. That was actually supposed to be out a lot earlier than it wound up being, but we've discussed those reasons before. So hold on one second. I see that there's like a big long question. Any chance of like an Avengers specific affiliated Spider-Man? I think there's, I mean, how many versions of Spider-Man could you do? That's kind of like the woodchuck question, right? Absolutely. I think there's definitely like there are eras of Spider-Man where he's been an Avenger, you know, a card carrying official Avenger. I kind of count him more as the new Avengers than like the traditional Avengers. So maybe it's a different affiliation. Maybe it's just a Spider-Man. You know, I think there's a lot of like, again, room to play and options. So I think it's totally possible, right? He's definitely been on there and part of that and stuff. That's not the core box version of Spider-Man, though. Like, the core box version of Spider-Man is very much what I would consider kind of like the, you know, he's supposed to represent that very traditional Spider-Man from, you know, a younger kind of the younger-ish Peter Parker, not the kid Peter Parker for sure. He's definitely a little older than that, you know. But he's probably college age, you know, in my mind. That kind of era where he's still kind of figuring things out for himself, and he's not really part of any team. He's still kind of proving himself a little bit. He hasn't quite grown into the full like extent of being Spider-Man, as it were. The height of his amazingness. So, you know, obviously, like every character, there's a lot of really great places to explore and places to go with that, and you know, I hope that we get to with all these characters at some point or another, because it's obviously impossible to encapsulate everything about a character in one go around on the table, and I think that's also what makes the game so exciting and fun. You know, we do our best to give nods to everything and to kind of like get core stuff out there so the characters feel right and they feel accurate, but everybody kind of has a different version of the characters in their heads, so we aim for as accurate as possible, while still being balanced within the game and fun, and then we can find ways to, you know, replicate and show those characters so I'm going to have to be careful here, because if I do the S.H.I.E.L.D. icon in red, it's going to maybe look a little too Hydra, but I want to go with it. And we're just going to play with it, because I want to get that red on the top, too. I'm not sure that I want to do her gauntlets red. Maybe we do. Screw it. We're doing it, boys and girls and everyone else watching on the stream. In the vacuum of space, 10,000 years from now? Nah, these aren't radio. These aren't wavelength broadcasts. There's no way. No one from Alpha Centauri is going to be watching this well after I'm gone in dust. Give those big old Widow Sting 2.0 gauntlets that nice red effect. Be not afraid. Champions. Well, you know, we'll have a Miles. That's a start. We might have to have some discussions about who else. Vision. Of course, Ms. Marvel. Gotta have her. Nova. Yeah. A lot of great stuff. So much good stuff. Alright. Now we got a lot of red on this girl. A lot of red metallic going on, but I'm liking it. I'm liking where this is going. I think we're getting a good foundation down. She'll look pretty snazzy. I feel like since I've gone this far, I might as well just do all of the suit bits red metallic too, even though that wasn't my plan. But we kind of went with a more armored version here, which I think is okay. It fits her physical defense 4, right? She's wearing combat armor. More so than her other version, which is pretty much just the black leather suit. Alright, so let's just get in here. Let's just do it. Let's be wild. Let's be different. Not quite done with that black, but I think we'll be okay to just jump into this red since we're feeling the red right now. block it out. It'll also give me a little bit of a better idea on where to mess with the blacks, and if I make a little bit of a mistake, I can always go back and clean it up. And this will be pretty easy to clean. Whoop. Come across here. That band across her chest. Yeah, costume choosing is definitely it's definitely an interesting challenge. But I think, like we talked about before, one of the great things about just the Marvel Universe in general is that the good ideas bleed over. So, you know, there are a few costume options from one medium to another that never really seem to kind of like land. You know, Crossbones kind of being at the forefront of my brain. That Civil War costume is definitely very, very different, and I don't know that I've ever seen it kind of represented in any of the modern interpretations of Crossbones in the comics. But most of the time, there are always elements that get pulled over one way or the other. So cool ideas are cool ideas. It doesn't really matter where they come from. So we get to kind of have our pick and have fun with all of them, which is nice. Very, very nice. Whoop, I'm off screen. I mean, largely, like this version of Black Widow, she has a little bit of that MCU inspiration in there. But a lot of, like, the vast majority of it was all kind of that 90s era Black Widow, and she had the shorter hair, and then she had her groovy looking Black Widow banding going on her suit, and then it was a lot of just talking about, you know, the role that we wanted her to play, and we kind of envisioned she's got a lot of classic S.H.I.E.L.D. uniform on her too. That's actually where this band comes from. This top band right here, that's inspired by those classic S.H.I.E.L.D. outfits, where they get, like, you know, they have the strapping going across here, and then they have the thing coming down. So she's kind of a mishmash of different inspirations going on. The hair is definitely kind of a nod. Some of the movie stuff, a little bit. Some of the more modern interpretations of her. So it was really fun to work on this Widow. It was just fun to kind of come up with stuff. She is very shiny. Woo! Very shiny. Yep. I think we're just taking this all the way. We're just gonna go all the way with this. We've started. There's no reason to stop now. So we'll get this little, like, panel down here by the shoe. This little foot armor, nice and red. And then what I'll do is I'll go back, and I will use a red ink glaze. So I'll take some red ink and I'll glaze it. I'll thin it down into a glaze, and I'll just start running that over this red metallic, because this red metallic is kind of orangey. It's definitely a garnet. So, but I want to get a nice, like, robust kind of red going on. And this is really the trick to get richness out of any kind of metallic color, is to use washes and glazes to punch the color back up, because you're not going to quite get the saturation of color due to the white of the steel. of the metallic flake. But, and you actually don't even need, I mean, if you want, you don't even need to use a colored metallic at base. You can very easily just use a normal steel color or metallic color. And 1 second. Just realized my computer wasn't plugged in and it was going to die. You can use just a normal steel color, and you can just use glazes to build up whatever color you want. So it definitely speeds the process up, though, if you have a really nice colored metallic, and the Scale 75 ones have been awesome for that, for sure. I'm just kind of like hitting all the last little areas that might have missed. Before I call this color good for the moment. So we're getting her blocked out. So there we go, that's where we are right now. And I was totally off camera on that last one, so I apologize for that. See a little bit of it. Alright. So, looking at what's next. I think I'm going to go back to the black really quick. And we're just going to build up some colors. Ooh, as my water cup gets in the way. There. I think Dallas's plan was to actually show some like glazing of metallics and stuff. He's going to be painting a black dwarf, right? You did your Ebony Maw, so it's black dwarf time now, right? I think I can say that. I just said it, so whatevs. It happened. Deal with it. Deal with it, Josh. Let's tell all the secrets. All the secrets. Alright. Just do a little bit more work on this black. Now that we have a better idea of where we want to go. Get back in the frame. So again, I'm just like hitting those highlights, and then I'm coming in with my wet brush and just blending the color back out. So I'm not putting the color everywhere I want. I'm just kind of like focusing on the big spots, like the big top highlights. And then blending out from there. So the idea is to stretch that paint over so that you get those nice blends across the top, because that paint, as it stretches, obviously becomes more and more translucent, less and less opaque. But much like, you know, a colored film over the top of something, it maintains some of its opaqueness. So you're kind of playing with that and pulling it down and making it go. Yeah, and the red is Garnet Alchemy from Scale 75. that is the red metallic I used. And then I'm using Abyssal Blue and Arctic Gray? Arctic Blue for my black. And we're just going to play these colors out, and then what I'll wind up doing is once I have my highlights built up, I'll use a nice thin black glaze and go back over the black to kind of deepen it back up and smooth out some of these blends. And wind up with a nice looking black leather that'll look really nice next to that Hawkeye. Now it just gets really quiet because I go into the zen of the blending zen. You start really focusing in, and you do this for really ever. Like you can just get lost in it. And then Josh goes, "Why did you stream for 4 hours?" And I'm like, "I didn't realize. Sorry." Blend, 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 blend. CP10, what? That's Seattle's on the Seattle team. I don't know about that. Dallas got a bunch of on his mystical desk of wonders. He's got a couple of CP10 goodies. They were looking pretty nice. I have no such things, I'm afraid. I can't give the people what they want. I don't have them. I'm like the end of the process, not the beginning of the process. When it comes to all that cool stuff. Ooh. Really drive in here. Out. Get down here. Blend this out. Just like it was a good stream, and then he started doing his blending, and then it all fell apart. Which is fair. Which is fair. And I think with that, I'm pretty happy with where those blacks are winding up. So it's just going to be a question of getting a nice black glaze over them to just deepen up those colors one more time. Kind of smooth out our transitions. And we'll go back and do the whoop. How many characters we have planned out? Oh my gosh. That's a crazy question, Anakin's twin. I can tell you that we have things planned out for quite a ways. For quite a ways. I don't even know what the character count winds up being. But we're well into the future. Like, we got stuff almost like in some stage of the process through 2022. So it yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming, a lot of big stuff coming. We obviously have some very big announcements for this year. All kinds of cool stuff. And then we've got all the cool free content and stuff that comes your way too, like Ultron AIs and, you know, more Ultimate Encounters. We're working on another Ultimate Encounter right now, actually. That'll hopefully be coming out at some point soon. And then eventually, once everybody can get back together and start playing in stores and stuff, we're gonna have some pretty awesome organized play. So there's just a ton of good stuff, man. So much good stuff coming. So yeah, lots of cool stuff coming for the future, including, I'll cheat because Dallas gets to do this all the time, so I'll cheat. Josh can't stop me. I got this today, which is one of our bulk samples. So there you go. That is approved. So we continue to move forward on everything cool. Show us the cards. No, I'm not that bold. I'm brave enough to like incur a little bit of the wrath of Josh, but I'm not. We're not going full wrath of Josh. I don't need that in my life. He will drive over here and break shelter-in-place rules. He's a very angry and mean-spirited man. Anyway. So, I think with that, we will call this controlled and good. So, thank you so much for joining us, guys. I hope you had a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you all on stream as Dallas streams from his home on Thursday. Doctor Strange is on a 50 mil base. For those who are asking, I saw several people ask. He's on the 50 mil. But yeah, so there you go. So this was the work we got done on Widow today. I'm pretty happy with it. We blocked out all of the metallic reds, did a little bit of experimentation there. We got the black suit to a pretty good spot. I'll probably continue to work that a little bit more as we go through, depending on how my glaze looks. Plenty more to do. We'll hit the straps. We'll get the holsters. Obviously, we have to do her face and her hair. And then we'll have to go back and block out the symbols. So she's got her Black Widow symbol on her chest. And then she's got the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on the side. Oh. Happening. For those asking, Doctor Strange is on a 50 millimeter base. So, there you go. I think with that, we'll because clearly we're having some technical difficulties. So thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out Dallas's live stream on Thursday. He's going to be working on Black Dwarf. Watch the Atomic Mass social media and website today as we post the Ultron AI system for the Ultron Ultimate Encounter All Will Be Metal. As well as we're going to be posting up Black Widow Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's stat card as well today. Watch for more information on Black Dwarf. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming out. I believe there's going to be a panel to play very soon. As well as, of course, more teasers and looks at his stat card and stuff following the live stream on Thursday. So come back, hang out with us, have fun, and let's paint together. Be sure to show us all the stuff that you're working on, and remember the painting challenge is now a thing and is happening. So we're looking